Vandals, more vandals, bad truckers, teenage drivers, and some very expensive mistakes. It's all coming up on this week's episode of
Wham Bam Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.
Alex had lent his brand new Model 3 to his friend Alexis so he could get to work. It was so new, in fact, that Alex hadn't even made the first payment yet. They were supposed to meet for lunch when Alex received a notification from his Tesla app that one of his tires had lost all pressure. Another driver had made an illegal left turn without checking for other traffic, colliding with Alex's Tesla and sending it spinning off the road and into a ditch. Shortly after, Alexis called Alex to inform him of the collision. Alexis didn't know what to do, so Alex quickly made his way to the scene of the wreck. Once he'd arrived, Alex witnessed the full extent of the damage while also discovering that Alexis was completely unhurt. The other driver, who'd been illegally driving without insurance, tried to put the blame on Alexis by accusing him of speeding. When the police took one look at Alex's Teslacam footage, they quickly found the other driver completely responsible. When she admitted she'd been trying to make a left turn from a right turn only lane, they gave her a citation as well. The police credited the safety of Alex's Tesla for the fact that Alexis hadn't been injured at all. They also mentioned that, considering the way it had hit the ditch, they would have expected it to roll over. Thankfully, the car's low center of gravity kept it upright after the impact. The Tesla Collision Center estimated over $35,000 to fix Alex's Model 3 Highland, but since he has Tesla insurance, they were able to get the parts for half price. That brought the repair estimate down to about $22,000, which meant his Tesla wasn't totaled. After 4 months in the shop, it came back looking brand new. Man, Tesla insurance customers are so lucky. Psst, Tesla, please bring Tesla insurance to Washington State. Alex wanted to shout out his friend Alexis and told us he's glad he wasn't hurt in the collision. He's got no hard feelings toward his friend, and he's incredibly thankful to Tesla for making the safest vehicles on the road. Jerry was driving down Highway 400 in Canada when traffic ahead of him slowed down, but the drivers behind him weren't paying attention. The drivers of an Acura and a Mitsubishi both managed to swerve in time, only to reveal a Volkswagen Jetta before it smashed into the back of Jerry's Model Y. Jerry stopped and made sure everyone was okay, and the young driver of the Jetta was actually afraid of him as he approached. Jerry calmed him down and told him he wasn't angry, just disappointed. Okay, he didn't actually say that. What Jerry didn't realize was that his Tesla had automatically called 911 and sent a notification to his wife's phone. Firefighters and paramedics responded, but both Jerry and the Jetta driver declined care. Both of them filed reports at the collision center, which is when Jerry found out the Jetta driver didn't have comprehensive insurance, which would have paid for the repairs to his own car even though the collision was his fault. His insurance did cover the cost of fixing Jerry's Tesla though, $35,000. Completing the repairs took 2.5 months. Superdog was driving his Model 3 in Vineland, New Jersey, when another driver neglected to make sure traffic was clear before pulling into the road. Superdog spun out exactly like Alex's Model 3 from earlier. Sadly, the Teslacam footage stopped recording shortly after the impact. Superdog called 911, and when police arrived, the other driver told them they'd checked left and right before driving forward. That's when the police officer responded, "You're supposed to check left, then right, then left again." I guess some people only learn lessons if they cost something. Zane was waiting at a red light when he noticed a Honda behind him and thought, uh-oh, if this was a Wham Baam video, I'd be in trouble. Sorry about this, Zane. Roll the jingle.
Honda bumped.
Zane's Tesla was Honda bumped, and the Honda driver was shocked and put his head in his hands after the impact. We're not shocked, though. Our fans know this happens all the time. Fixing the Tesla cost $2,000 and took 3 days. This Model 3 driver was proceeding through a green light when, all of a sudden, a bicycle rider from the right ignored his red light and drove right through in front of him. Our submitter gave him a beep of the horn, but this minor repercussion for his unsafe and illegal action triggered the cyclist into full rage mode at the next traffic light. The cyclist jumped off his bicycle and practically leapt toward our submitter's Tesla before standing in front of it and throwing a temper tantrum. Our submitter told us he stayed calm and waited for the cyclist to take a breath so he could explain that he had to have run a red light. Well, the cyclist wouldn't stop shouting, so he never got the chance. Eventually, the poor child returned to his bike laying in the road. Considering his lack of concern for his own safety, I guess it's no surprise that he decided not to wear a helmet. Eric was sitting at an intersection in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, when another driver ran a red light before getting T-boned by a BMW. Thankfully, everyone involved was okay. Eric told us he was happy to see lots of bystanders rush to help the occupants of the involved vehicles. Incredibly, we're happy to report that a Honda driver was able to react quickly enough to avoid a Honda bump. What a twist! Henry was driving his Model Y in Asheville, North Carolina. Slow-moving traffic had backed up every back road with heavy congestion. He just turned onto a main road and was slowing down for stopped traffic ahead when he heard screeching tires behind him. A pickup driver moving way too fast locked up his brakes but still couldn't stop before rear-ending Henry's Tesla. A blown fuse caused the Tesla to become immobilized and the pickup's engine wouldn't start. Both vehicles ended up being removed by tow trucks. Henry received an initial repair estimate of $25,000 US, and he's now waiting to find out if his car is totaled. What's with all these drivers not noticing Teslas stopped in front of them? Here comes another one in this video from Amethyst. Traffic suddenly slowed down and Amethyst's Tesla automatically reacted, but the driver of the Nissan behind it wasn't paying attention. Videos like this just confirm that self-driving vehicles can't come soon enough. Until then, better collision avoidance systems sure would be nice. If that Nissan had automatic emergency braking, this situation could have been avoided. Amethyst also experienced a blown fuse and an immobilized Tesla, so once again, both vehicles had to be towed away. She filed an insurance claim and thinks her car will probably be totaled. Peter was returning from a vacation with his family when he spotted the flashing lights of a police car in his rearview mirror. He made some room for the police car to pass him. The driver of a black VW Passat saw this as an invitation to pass Peter and nearly collided with the police car. Peter told us he has no idea how the VW driver could have missed the police car behind them, considering its lights and siren were both active. The VW driver is probably fortunate that cop had somewhere else to be, or they could have been in big trouble for failing to yield. The driver of a Camaro learned an important lesson when he proceeded with a turn while his view of traffic was obstructed. Just because one lane of traffic has stopped does not mean the other 3 lanes are safe to cross. The Camaro's bumper cover came to rest next to John's Tesla, just out of frame of his Teslacam. Thankfully, the debris didn't cause any damage to his car. John told us he saw the young driver and his friends jump out to assess the damage, and he thinks they'll probably remember what might be their first collision for the rest of their lives. Tian was stopped at a red light in Milpitas, California, when a truck full of Teslas rolled by. The truck was actually transporting brand new Teslas from the factory in Fremont to the Milpitas train station, which is where they'll be distributed all around the continent. Suddenly, Tian realized the trucker was running a red light at a train crossing. When the train crossing arm lowered, it hit 2 of the brand new Teslas. Tian thinks this action should result in the driver being fired, as it's common sense when driving a long vehicle to stop at a train track and check for any approaching trains before continuing across. At least, that was Tian's experience as a former bus driver. What do you think? Let us know what should happen to this trucker in the comments. Jason was heading home from work when he spotted the opposite of what we saw in the last video. This time, the vehicle transporter was slowing down even though the traffic light was green. The driver of a Cybertruck wasn't happy about being stuck behind the load of brand new Kias fresh from the port, so they decided to overtake it illegally. Jason asked us to play the Tesla behaving badly jingle for the first bad Cybertruck driver we've featured. Ironically, the Cybertruck driver could have waited and passed the truck legally just a quarter of a mile ahead, but Jason thinks he was just too important. Ed and Liz were on a 2-week-long multi-state road trip, and Ed was driving with autopilot engaged and set to the maximum follow distance. Suddenly, Liz pointed to the trucks ahead of them and said, "3 trucks all driving side by side. What could possibly go wrong?" Not 5 seconds later, the tire of one of the trucks exploded with a loud boom, showering the GMC SUV with chunks of disintegrated tire. Ed immediately disengaged autopilot and took over driving, and both he and the Model X driver behind him managed to dodge the flying debris. Riley had left his Model Y parked outside of a grocery store in Ventura, California, when a man was thrown out of the store for shoplifting. The guy was so bent on committing crimes, he decided to key several random vehicles in the parking lot. Sentry mode on Riley's Tesla activated automatically as the vandal keyed a Toyota parked in front of it, and sadly, his Tesla was next on his hit list. The attacker dragged the key all along the passenger side of Riley's car. The police were called, and Riley gave a copy of his Sentry mode footage to the responding officer. The officer told Riley they knew who the criminal was, but since he was homeless, there wasn't any way to pursue him to pay for the damage. Instead, Riley filed a claim with his own insurance provider to get his Tesla fixed. Alex was visiting Beacon Overlook in New York, and his Tesla's navigation directed him to go off-road. With the route ahead getting increasingly slippery, he couldn't make it very far. Alex pulled over to avoid blocking the road for anyone coming down, then went the rest of the way on foot. As Alex was returning to his Tesla after visiting the overlook, he got a notification on his phone before hearing a car alarm begin echoing through the woods. When he got to his car, he found a huge crack in his windshield. When he checked his Sentry mode footage, he immediately recognized the guy who'd smashed it with a rock. He told us he was baffled because the guy had seemed really cool when they'd interacted at the overlook. He'd been swimming in the local water reservoir, and they exchanged some words about how beautiful it was just before Alex started heading back to his car. After Alex had been walking for a few minutes, the guy passed him on his bike, even wishing Alex a good day. Only 10 or 15 minutes later, he'd be smashing the windshield of Alex's car. Alex filed a police report. Predictably, the police didn't have high hopes for identifying the vandal. Alex is hoping that one of our viewers might recognize him. It sure would be nice if Alex didn't have to pay his deductible for something that isn't even his fault, and hopefully we can stop this guy from doing something like this ever again.
Wham Bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.